I'll just very quickly bring this down to the Nordics, to the next couple of years. I think Brett has sort of painted a picture of what's happening and where we're going and what's going to be happening. From our perspective, there are a couple of things that we're seeing is going to be fairly critical in the Nordics for the next couple of years. And I think a lot of this ties into what Brett was saying. There's an economy of scale. I think we're going to see a growth of mergers and acquisitions. I think we're going to continue seeing banks acquiring fintechs. We're going to see fintechs merging to try and grow in this space. I think we're going to continue seeing a fundamental regulatory shift. But I think one of the things we're going to see as a change is the regulators are going to a certain degree, slow down. They're now going to focus on making sure the banks deliver, or the fintechs deliver on the regulations that are there, rather than inundated with a lot more regulations. The Nordics has always been quite good and focused on ESG and sustainability. I think this is going to become a differentiator for financial institutions in the Nordics. No longer just greenwashing and looking at what can we do from a marketing perspective, but I think it's going to become more and more important, both from the way that the financial institutions operate, but also the offerings that they're making available. Customer expectation, and I'm going to tie this into AI. Brett made some interesting comments. A lot of people are looking at AI and using AI from customer interactions. There was an interesting study that was done, and I actually think it was Orpea that presented this a little while ago. As humans, we are more comfortable sharing our financial situation with an AI than with another human. The reason being for that is we're scared that the other human, the bank person on the other side, is going to use whatever information we share with them to their advantage. At the end of the day, they have to deliver something and they have to sell something. So we're going to start seeing a growth of, if we as financial institutions really want to help our customers going forwards, we need to use AI, and we need to be proud and open on the fact that this is an AI that's here to help you rather than a human, because they're going to be more willing to share their financial life for us to be able to give them better support. Another thing from AI and customer expectations, true story. A couple of weeks ago, I had the pleasure of being on holiday in Spain. Some of my colleagues know this. Myself, my children, and my girlfriend. My girlfriend, unfortunately, managed to lose her wallet whilst we were in Spain. I don't know whether it was pickpocketed or whether she lost it whilst we were running around or whatever the case may be. Now, she banks with a Nordic bank. I'm not going to name and shame at this moment in time. But back to AI, and I'm going to paint a scene for you here now. We're in Spain. She's got one card with one bank. She's not one of these people that have got multiple financial relationships, and she's just lost it. Starting point is easy. We went to the app, we blocked the card, and then we said, need a new card. To which it flashed up onto the screen, thank you very much, we've received your order for a new card. You will receive your card in 12 business days. Nothing else, right? Now, AI, customer expectations, bank. Had the bank been smart and had capabilities, it would have looked at a transaction and said, we see that for the last couple of days, all your transactions are in Spain. You're in Spain, you're not at home. Do you have cash? Do you have access to money? God forbid you're on your own and you're now cashless without anything. None of that. Secondly, going back to Revolut and some of the other neobanks, don't say we're going to give you a card in 12 business days. Say, here's a virtual card that will work for you now. We're going to send you your card, but we can issue you a virtual card so that you can at least buy something. Now, I was there and everything was okay, but had she been on her own, the bank left her. Thank you very much. Here is your card in 12 days' time. Did turn up in the end, actual fact. It took longer than 12 days to turn up as well. But it did turn up. But for that whole time, she was left alone. There's so much the bank could have done. And for a lot of that, you probably don't even need AI. But back to what Brett was saying, when you get to a future where you have a generative AI, your own AI, that you can talk to that will help you in everything you're doing, the relationship with the bank disappears. I'm not saying that's going to be in the Nordics in the next 3 years, but there is an awful lot. There's an awful lot that the banks can do today using AI to be able to help the customer. But it comes on to the core modernization. A lot of banks in the Nordics are sitting on some fantastic museum artifacts of IT, right? There's one of the banks in the Nordics that I've worked with a lot, and I'm convinced that they've got every single technology that's ever existed. And most of it is probably still running in one way or another. So very much back to what Brett was saying, to run all of this, you need to be able to modernize the core. You need to be able to put API capabilities on top of that and everything else. But the biggest problem that the Nordic banks have got is the data. You've got large amounts of data. Half of it is contradictory. Half of it is out of date. Most of it is not understandable. So even if you have got great AI capabilities, even the AI is not going to be able to do anything smart with the data. You need to get a grip of the data, you need to tidy up the data, and then you need to modernize the IT. And on top of all of that, like Brett said, quantum is coming. I think that this year, banks need to double down on how they're going to ensure the resilience and the security of their systems for the future. Because the hackers these days aren't actually looking for how can we decrypt your data today. They're just interested in collecting your data. They'll collect it, they'll keep it safe, and once quantum comes along, they'll decrypt it. Because most of your customers haven't changed their passwords, most of your systems haven't changed. Once they've got access to that data, they can retrospectively play with it. And then lastly, and I'm going to point to Sampsa, who's sitting here, is going to join us in a little while. The future of embedded finance, the future of platform banking in the Nordics is growing fast, right? You only have to look at one of the neobanks in Denmark, who have suddenly now decided, hey, we can take our platform and we can turn it into a banking as a service platform. Now, we all know about the fun that SEB had with SEBX and SEB Embedded, but they set the train in motion. And this is growing. I'm going to make a small prediction, and some people know here I don't like making predictions, but I think we're going to see an exponential growth of embedded finance in the Nordics starting this year. Okay. So I put to you, as a bank, you should have these 5 priorities going forwards. Customer centricity is not about you sitting there saying, I think I understand how the customers work. Most banks are inside-out focused. Most banks are setting their strategy and decisions based upon people that have been in the bank since they were kids. There has to be a fundamental change because the world is changing and it's changing really, really fast. One of the things that I've seen is the pace of change in the Nordics is too slow when it comes to the banks. Customer centricity should be a lot easier. My girlfriend shouldn't be stuck in Spain without cash for 12 days. I'm not going to get into an argument as to whether the digital euro is a good thing or a bad thing, and I know we have lots of interest in discussions. Why do we even need it, and is it relevant? I think the fundamental point here is whether we like it or not, whether we want it or not, it's happening. It's going to happen. As banks, you need to embrace it. And more importantly, Not just embrace it, but look at how you can take advantage of it. Because this is going to impact everything in your IT stack. Sustainability and ESG has to become at the front of everything you're doing. I think in the Nordics, consumers are actually quite focused on climate. They're quite focused on sustainability. I think customers and consumers are going to start actually making their choices based upon that. I'm not going to talk about AI banking anymore. Brett has done that so well, so I'm not going to talk about it anymore. But the last one is around the platformification of the banking industry. I think this one here is really interesting. I've presented this before. Anyone else here heard me rampant on about... You know what I'm going to say, right? Yeah. I have an interesting question. How much more does e-passi have to do before they become the predominant wallet in Finland? How much more do they have to do before they actually drive majority of the basic banking capabilities for consumers?